deck. Gerard's deck, as we saw yesterday on camera, and as I can confirm after playing the match, definitely struggles with man lands. Reed played a turn 1 Raging Ravine, and I felt like I couldn't win. But no man lands to worry about in this matchup against Blue-Red Twin.
No, the only real utility land out of Blue-Red Twin is Desolate Lighthouse. Only one copy. We've seen a lot of players actually talk about, because this is such a twin-filled metagame, they're wishing they had maybe 2 or 3 copies of this card. It's really been an all-star.
Yeah, whenever we've watched the Twin Mirror or Twin Square off against any sort of Cryptic Command deck, it feels like when the Twin deck has had Desolate Lighthouse, they've been able to sit back and sculpt the perfect hand.
Yeah, and this is certainly a deck, so this is Sultai control deck out of Garard, where Ross will hope to hit the land. Garard does not have any copies of a card like Tectonic Edge, so if a Lighthouse is in play, Ross will get free reign on it. That said, Garard has a lot more card advantage than what you'd expect out of something like Abzan, and even if Ross gets the land going, Garard may be able to keep pace.
So, by the looks of things, Garard has mulliganed to 5 and has kept his opening hand based on 2 cards, having not seen the other 3 yet.
That is a Gerard-style play.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're underway, though. Ross on the play. He's going to go with Steam Vents into Grim Lavamancer. Passing back to Garard. Now, Garard doesn't have too many things that actually get taken down by that creature. Most of his guys, Tarmogoyfs, Thrag Tusks, Snapcaster Mage. You can get around Grim pretty easily. Not
a very effective card against Garard. It's still nice to have a source of damage that doesn't get involved in combat, because Gerard's deck can gum up the ground a bit, but Lavamancer, one of Ross's less effective cards in the matchup.
So as we start on the early turns here, playing against Twin, the first check, right, is that if you're playing a control deck, you need to make sure you aren't getting turn 3'd or turn forward, or rather, I guess, turn forward by the deck. What are the weapons here that Garard has to stop Ross from just going to town with the Twin combo?
Some discard spells, some removal spells, some mana leaks, Cryptic Command. Even on the draw, he's got a lot of play.
We'll see what Ross has. Garard fires off an Inquisition of Kozilek. From Ross, we see lands 2 and 3, an Island and a Sulphur Falls. He has half the combo in Splinter Twin, doesn't have the creature just yet, but he has a Snapcaster Mage and then his main deck copy of Dispel in his hand.
And you can see why the Twin deck is almost the control deck of the format. Gerard's deck certainly more controlling, but in terms of the stock decks, because the combo requires so few deck slots, you can fill it up with quite a bit of interaction, and a lot of counter spells are floating around these Twin decks.
Yeah, and as a result, Garard has to take Ross's card advantage sources. You see the Inquisition there taking away Snapcaster Mage. Ross, playing land and passing, actually did draw the other half of the combo that turn in Deceiver Exarch. So Garard may not know it, but there's a decent chance that Ross is looking at the ability to try for a turn 4 win.
Right, and that's a lot of the power of the Blue-Red Twin deck going into this control shell as well. Garard went and took Snapcaster Mage out of the hand because it looked like this is shaping up to be a long game. And it's possible Ross will have an uncontested Deceiver Exarch into Splinter Twin.
Yeah, Ross shooting Garard for 2 on end step. Goes ahead and swings with Grim Lavamancer, Garard down to 16. So in the meantime, while Ross sets up his combo, he gets to go ahead and make these plays where he just chips away at life points. But you're right, though, because Garard had to take the card advantage, he actually left Ross with a copy of Dispel, which if Ross is just trying to combo out, I mean, Dispel's a great weapon there.
Not just Dispel, he also left him with a copy of Splinter Twin. I mean, you know, he left the ability to combo through intact, because Snapcaster Mage in this sort of control shell is the most dangerous card of them all.
Well, it's actually interesting, right, because Garard is playing one Thoughtseize 4 Inquisition of Kozilek, so it actually... It takes away some of his ability to disrupt the combo, right? He actually can't take Splinter Twin in this situation.
Yeah, Garard is, sort of making a concession here to his life total and the burn matchup by playing with Inquisition. You're right that Splinter Twin was an option, but Dispel in a pure combo matchup is the more dangerous card compared to Snapcaster Mage.
So Ross, no land 4, just swings and passes. Garard now gets to untap. He'll start with a Serum Visions. Does have land 4. And may be able to leverage a bit of a mana advantage here. Ross doesn't have the 4th land yet for Splinter Twin. But Ross making inroads. Garard down to 14 already. Does look like mana leak among the cards in Gerard's hand. He'll fetch himself down to 13. Now, the thing here, so I was looking at, okay, thinking if Garard had any life gain, how aggressive can he be with his life total? And I was thinking his biggest life gain is a card like Thrag Tusk in this matchup. But is there ever going to be a spot where Garard can cast something like Thrag Tusk?
Well, he's got to know the coast is clear via discard, or the game has gotten to a spot where, Ross has had 1 or 2 blind draw steps that Garard can just risk. But tapping out 4 Thrag Tusk is very, very tough.
Garard fetching for Overgrown Tomb. Now remember, Ross always can end step try to tap something with Deceiver Exarch, so Garard has to be careful with his mana. Right now, Ross can tap him off of blue mana, but he can't keep Garard off of Abrupt Decay mana, which is pretty relevant here.
Yep. And it's another power of the Twin deck. If you look at the threats in the format, a lot of the cheap stuff gets gunned down by the lightning bolts. A lot of the big stuff, if you tap out, it's a big risk. And a lot of the flash creatures of the format, things like Aven Mind Sensor, Vendilion Click, those get chewed up by Electrolyze and Lightning Bolt as well. So it's really hard to find a creature that's the perfect foil for Twin, because you need a little bit of everything.
Now, I do love how Garard has played this. He went ahead and left up Mana Leak and Abrupt Decay, and thanks to all this fetching he's been doing and the Inquisition, he was able to play a Tassiger the Golden Fang on just 1 mana. So he has both up here. You see Ross going for an end step Deceiver Exarch, and Garard will go ahead and Mana Leak that one.
Now, Tassiger may be the type of threat that you really want against Twin, because you can have it on the cheap, it's
play it
big,
for 1, yeah.
And if you're leaving up a bunch of mana to react to your opponent, Tassiger is quite nice as well.
Yeah, it's something you actually can do. And Ross is really respecting that here. You see on his turn, he main phase Lightning Bolts it and uses Grim Lavamancer to finish the card off. 4/5 is big, but not big enough. And now we see from Garard, this is... I love that this card is in his deck. It goes with Compulsive Research. It's one of in the main.
1 copy. But, you know, when you're playing against the Abzons and Juns of the world, or even just any game that gets drawn out, it's very powerful to have that card available.
Inquisition of Kozilek again from Garard. We see pretty much what we saw the first turn. It's Splinter Twin, second Splinter Twin now, and Dispel. Garard will go ahead and take the 4th card, which was Snapcaster Mage again. And Gerard's doing a good job of keeping Ross off of action. Ross swinging with Grim Lavamancer has Garard down to 10. But that may not be happening too much longer. Garard creeping Tar Pit was his land last turn and makes Tarmogoyf here.
And Ross with Remand in hand, but he's looking at just cycling because it's... Garard can just easily recast the Tarmogoyf here.
And it is these cards like Remand, like Tarmogoyf and stuff like Tassiger that we find these seem to be the threats that are well positioned against Twin. These really cheap things.
Got to be cheap and ideally outside of bolt range. That's the mixture.
Yeah, not too many cards that actually fit that bill. 1 or 2 mana guys with 4 toughness. But Tarmogoyf is probably the poster child for that one. Now a 4/5 right now. Instant sorcery, land, and creature in the yards. Ross will go ahead and on his turn cast Pestermite, untapping a land. He wants to get around a possible mana leak out of Garard.
Yep.
By untapping, he has left up a Dispel in his hand.
And the ability to activate Grim Lavamancer.
Right, here comes Garard now, though, going to work on life totals. Here comes Tarmogoyf. It'll swing Ross down to 13. 7th land for Garard, or 6th land. He has 2 cards left. One of them is Abrupt Decay. Ross drawing land 4, now has the ability to go for the twin, but you see, knows that may not be very safe. Swings with Pestermite, here's Abrupt Decay. Abrupt Decay, one of the better weapons here. It's uncountable. Ross can't dispel it for any value.
The marquee removal spell against Twin.
Yeah, in Abrupt heavy metagames, you'll see Twin players go to lengths to play cards like Mizium Skin just due to things due to Abrupt Decay. Right now, though, Ross with none of that in his 75. It will just Abrupt Decay will get its card every time. And Garard has turned the game around here. Ross down to 9. Only 2 more hits from Tarmogoyf, if we couple with the Creeping Tar Pit, should be enough to finish it off.
And you see Ross not willing to use the Grim Lavamancer. He's trying to save the cards in his graveyard for the Creeping Tar Pit. And Garard, as a result of this, has not been activating his Creeping Tar Pit, even though he's had all this mana laying around.
Yeah, Garard goes for text. Ross will go ahead and tap Tarmogoyf with the Deceiver Exarch. Garard is getting low on cards, and Ross is getting low on life points. With an extra Splinter Twin in his hand, we may see Ross just jam for the combo next turn. A lot of times out of the Twin deck, that second Splinter Twin in their hand is a resource that is rarely used, so Ross getting 2 for 1 there might just be a risk he's willing to take.
Well, the Deceiver Exarch on its own is worth very little, as is a spare Splinter Twin, so
it's a 2 for 1, but the 2 for 1 is some pretty useless cards.
And the ceiling is you win the game, so it's a good roll of the dice.
Gerard with the 7th land. 2 cards remain. We'll see if Gerard has a kill spell on his turn and whether or not Ross is willing to roll the dice here. Thrag Tusk from Gerard Fabiano. We'll put him up to 14. Big clock. Leaves up Abrupt Decay mana, but just 1 card in hand. Does Ross risk it?
I don't see anything else for Ross to do with these Splinter Twins in hand. I don't even consider it to be much of a risk because what else are you going to do?
You're not going to beat the Thrag Tusk anymore.
Right.
This game plan of dealing 20 to Gerard seems very far off. You see him, and he's going to go for it. Splinter Twin Deceiver Exarch. Does Gerard have Abrupt Decay? He does. And that will take care of the combo. Ross not getting to make infinite Exarchs this turn. Staring down a mass of green creatures. Enchantment now added to the graveyard, so that time we're going with a 5/6.
And now this is also a window for Gerard to attack with the Creeping Tar Pit, as Ross is without red mana for the Lavamancer.
Ross will, by necessity, drop to 1 here. We'll have to chump block. And that was his best chance.
Yeah. Keep in mind, this is a game where Gerard was on 5 cards as well.
Yeah, Gerard doing a great job of coming back. His deck has a lot of raw card advantage in it. And especially card advantage when you look at the things that, Ross drawing something like Dispel and second Splinter Twin. These are cards that have never been live for the entire game. So in a sense, it's like Ross was on a 5-card hand too.
Yep.
So the swing puts Ross down to 3. Gerard holds back the Tar Pit. He then makes a post-combat Tasigur. And I like how he's done this. He has 6 mana. He has delved away everything but a copy of Mana Leak and Abrupt Decay. If need be, he can tap 4 for Tasigur, mill, and if he mills 2 lands, we'll get a Mana Leak or an Abrupt Decay, which should take care of any outs that Ross can draw.
Yeah, and at this point, Ross is, even something like Pestermite or Deceiver Exarch is not helpful because he just has to tap something and chump block something else.
Yeah, he did draw the Exarch off of Serum Visions, but his life total, you're right, just too low here. Has a backup copy of the combo, but just unable to do anything with it. And Tasigur will get activated on end step. Gerard mills 2, mills an Overgrown Tomb and an Island, so Ross can give Gerard Abrupt Decay or give him Mana Leak.
Pretty tough spot.
And Ross will give him neither, instead give him the concession, and game 1 goes over to Gerard Fabiano.
And that's just a display of what his deck is up to, The only vulnerability we've really seen out of his deck thus far are banned lands. In a matchup where his opponent's playing to the board, like Blue-Red Twin, he's just got a lot of answers to things. Mana Leak, Abrupt Decay, some cheap 4/5s. It's a good mixture. Good mixture of stuff.
These players go to the sideboard right now. Ross Merriam, number 4 on our leaderboard, and Gerard Fabiano, number 5 on our leaderboard. These are players making a run at certainly the points totals for the year. Right now, we are in Season 1, as you mentioned. 1 more open to go before we reach our first Invitational. But after that, we are going to start Season 2, and what a lineup of events do we have for you? A lot of standard events, but if you're a fan of Modern and a fan of our Star City Games Open, here's the big one. We have our first chance at a Modern Invitational.
Yeah, 2015 is our shortest season of the year. You see, we start in April with Syracuse, then we go to Providence, Cleveland, and then Seattle. After Seattle, we go to Dallas, Worcester for a Legacy Open, and then, as you mentioned, our first ever Modern Open Series and Invitational in Columbus for the Season 2 Invitational, tied to the Origins Game Fair. Modern Standard the Invitational format with a 2-day Modern Open Series attached. June 5th through 7th with me, you, and Cedric Phillips in the booth.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, in my area where I play a lot in the upper Midwest, Modern has really taken off as a format. There are a lot of players playing it right now. Were I not commentating the event and won an IQ, I would tell you what, I would be saving that invitation for a Modern Invitational.
Well, it's almost like Legacy or the initial stages of Legacy, where the people who are passionate about it are very passionate. And as we see by our highest attended Open in 2015 this weekend in Baltimore, the format definitely has a following.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of great combo decks, and there's no Force of Will in the format. I couldn't be happier.
Right. But you do have to wait a while. You don't get to kill on turn 1. That's the cost. But there's no Force of Will.
All right, let's going ahead and moving to the sideboard. Gerard Fabiano up a game right now. Typically, this is a matchup that I think would get better for him after board.
Right, he has access to 2 copies of Spellskite, 3 Disfigure, a Thoughtseize, 2 Feed the Clans, a Vendilion Click, a Nature's Claim, a Damnation, Sword of Temptation, Knight of Souls Betrayal, and 2 copies of Fulminator Rage. A lot of good and diverse options. Pretty typical for Gerard's decks.
Yeah.
2 copies of Spellskite, very good. Additional Thoughtseize, Vendilion Click, Nature's Claim, and Knight of Souls Betrayal are all good options, and they all attack Ross from different angles.
Yeah, so Spellskite can go ahead and steal the copy of Splinter Twin. Thoughtseize is great at the discard, as we saw that game was really effective. Vendilion Click, much of the same. Nature's Claim actually is good in that it answers Ross's Spellskites, and if he goes for the combo, you can Nature's Claim the Splinter Twin to stop the infinite combo from happening. And lastly, and this is one I loved here, Knight of Souls Betrayal. Let's talk about 1-0 Pestermites or 0-3 Deceiver Exarchs don't really get the job done.
Exactly. Knight of Souls Betrayal is not a card that screams, this is good against Splinter Twin, but the specifics of their creatures mean that it actually is quite effective. On Ross's side, a Batterskull, a Keranos God of Storms, a Jace Architect of Thought, 2 copies of Sower Temptation, a Dispel, a Negate, 2 Ancient Grudges, 2 Blood Moons, 2 Engineered Explosive, 2 Spellskite. I really like going big in this matchup because I think Ross's combo is pretty difficult to execute. So the Batterskull, the Keranos, the Jace, the Dispel, and the Negate, I think are all upgrades. Blood Moon is hit or miss against Garard. Gerard's deck was playing with 4 basics, so he does have a lot of protection against it, but if he's sloppy about it, or if he just happens to draw a lot of Overgrown Tombs and Watery Graves, Blood Moon can steal a game. I don't think Ross is going to bring him in, but it's not outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah. So I want to actually talk about the Dispel in this matchup. It should be really good because Garard has, is going on a lot of removal. But we did see that last game where Ross had a Dispel in his opening hand and never had a target for it.
Right. I mean, it's not like Gerard's deck is flush with targets, but I think there's enough quality ones where it's still worth having. Mana Leak and Cryptic Command, it's pretty helpful in battling those kind of cards. You can anticipate more instant speed interaction post-board, I think. Even though that's not really the case, you would assume Gerard's deck is the type of deck that's porting into more removal, more instants in general.
Yeah, it only hits about 6 cards, but that said, it dispels such an efficient piece. It's so efficient at doing that, maybe Ross wants it nonetheless.
Right. And Ross also just might not know Gerard's deck list. Gerard's deck has the feel of something with a lot of instants in it, even though in reality that's not the case.
That's certainly true. I mean, it doesn't help that some of Gerard's instants are cards like Abrupt Decay, which unfortunately just can't be dispelled.
Right, Gerard's deck 4, control deck, is pretty dispel-proof.
That said, we'll go on to game 2 here shortly. A lot of times we are seeing these twin decks post-board getting away from the twin combo. And that's nothing new. You've seen these kind of conversions into Batterskull Keranos strategies for a while. A lot of decent hate cards against blue-red twin.
Right, and because the deck is already playing with cards like Remand and Cryptic Command and other counter spells and Vendilion Click, it's natural for this deck to convert into a regular control deck. There's not that many slots dedicated to the combo. You can leave in some of it, a couple copies of Splinter Twin and a couple copies of the relevant creatures, but you can really get away from it. And the main deck supports that quite a bit by just playing with a bunch of generically powerful control cards like Lightning Bolt, Remand, and Cryptic Command.
In some like you have to, because there are a certain number of cards that are very good against your combo, whether they're something like Torpor Orbs or even Illness in the Ranks. They're these very cheap cards that people really want to get at your combo. They certainly can.
It appears as though Ross has brought in his copies of Engineered Explosives, which is a card he has 2 copies of in his sideboard. Something I didn't anticipate was going to come in, but looks like Ross has brought in.
I think it's maybe he already knows about the Spellskites in Gerard's board.
It's reasonable to assume.
Well, anyway, they will trade some lands on turn 1. Garard end step Thought Scours himself. Remand and Scalding Tarn hitting the yard. Will help power up Snapcaster Mages if Ross gets them in hand. Second land in play for both players. No plays just yet. Pretty typical for each deck. You see Garard sitting back on a pair of Mana Leaks right now. And Ross plays Stomping Ground for the turn. And a bit of a tell here, he doesn't actually play it untapped. Just goes for the tapped one, so no threat of the turn 4 combo.
And I think that Ross would be loath to go for the turn 4 combo anyway in this matchup because it means Garard has to have nothing for that to be good. No Mana Leak, no Abrupt Decay, no other piece of interaction.
Land 4 for Ross here. You see he does have in hand a copy of Batterskull, Pestermite, Dispel. He'll be able to fight over these Mana Leaks pretty well. Sharp plays Overgrown Tomb, and here's our first play of the game of a creature. It's going to be Pestermite from Ross on Gerard's end step. Gerard has only left up 1 black source, so he may have to fight here. Ross is going to tap him off black. And if Ross has Splinter Twin plus Dispel, he could just go for this here.
Right. You don't have to worry about Abrupt Decay because of the available mana, and you have a Dispel to play back against most reasonable responses. It would require something like 2 Dismembers for Gerard to get out of it.
That said, Ross doesn't have that, so just swings for 2, puts Gerard down. Down 2, gets him beats on, leaves up 5 mana. I'll go back on Gerard's side. he's got a Serum Visions to start. And Garard being fairly conservative here as well. Did have the option of making Tarmogoyf, but looks like he may just be waiting for 6 mana to do that, wanting to have double instant up.
The other thing that I think he wants is to put a sorcery in the graveyard, so Lightning Bolt is off the table as a response, because there's already a land and an instant in Ross's graveyard.
And Garard will, after Serum Visioning, will pass the turn. Ross will Electrolyze 2 to Garard, drawing a card.
Boom. Not a lot of Electrolyze targets in Gerard's deck, so.
Yeah, but that 2 damage draw card actually is kind of feeding into Ross's post-game board plan anyway.
Yeah. I don't think you should cut them, because the Lightning Bolts have got to be worse here.
And we do see Ross drawing a copy of Blood Moon. Here's another swing from Pestermite, Garard down to 14. And Ross looks like he'll go for the Blood Moon with some Dispels. He has 2 Dispels up to protect it.
And Garard just has one of those hands where he hasn't drawn any fetch lands, he's just on his dual lands. Blood Moon could be lights out here.
Yeah, he would have to have Abrupt Decay for the Blood Moon. He can float black-green with it on the stack and then blow it up. But if all Garard has is a pair of Mana Leaks to protect himself from this Blood Moon, he's not going to be able to do it. And Ross going to go for this. See if we can fight. Does Garard have the Abrupt Decay or just the counter spells? Also, interestingly, if he has the Abrupt Decay, he may want to trade this Mana Leak with a Dispel first before Abrupt Decay. So we'll go for counterspell number 1, that gets dispelled. And counterspell number 2, Ross has the second dispel for it, and now Garard is locked off mana.
And again, I don't think Blood Moon is going to be a hard lock against Garard in a high percentage of games. Like I said, it's high, one of those kind of high ceiling, low floor sort of situations, but this right here is the high ceiling.
Right, Garard with all red mana. Spellskite, the only card he can play, and Pestermite comes across, putting Garard down to 12. And Ross now has free reign of his spells. He'll tap out for a Batter Skull this turn. Passed back to Garard, drawing another black card. And Ross will, the beats will happen as fast as they can. A swing for 6 in the works. Perhaps he even moves the Batter Skull.
Looked like he contemplated it for a moment, but I don't think there's a lot to be gained there.
Yeah, swings, puts Garard down to 6. Garard draws another Inquisition of Kozilek. Still no plays. Land number 7 from Ross. And now he's going to move the Batter Skull over the Pestermite and swing for 6 in the air, and that will be it. Game 2 over to Ross Merriam. Blood Moon doing exactly what it was intended to.
Backed up by the Dispels. I mean, these are a couple cards here where, you know, again, the ceiling's high and the floor is very low. Dispel does not have a lot of targets against Garard. Blood Moon is very hit or miss. But the stars aligned in such a way that the Blood Moon and 2 Dispels was what would kill Garard that game.
And really show Blood Moon gotta be one of the more powerful effects in Modern, especially with the kind of decks that a lot of times get played.
It's funny, if I had to choose a card to ban in Modern, that would actually be my call, because...
Not for power level reasons.
Right, I mean, the card's reasonably powerful, but it's just, when this
happens.
Yeah, when the card's powerful, this stinks.
I can tell you from playing Amulet Bloom, yeah, that's that card.
Now,
that card's, I mean, to be fair, if you're playing Amulet Bloom, you probably deserve this.
I think that, you know, it says a lot about the health of the format that would be the card I would point to as the one I would want to be removed instead of something that's just a power level offender. I think the format's actually in a pretty healthy place right now, but I'm not a huge fan of the influence of that card.
It does promote kind of this all-in getcha strategy.
Yep.
Now, I asked this before. Do you feel the same way about things like Choke? You know, that's another card that kind of can get people.
I think that I think there's 2 different things. First of all, I think Choke hits a narrower range of people. And second, the format is stocked with so many quality dual lands that if Choke was running all over the place, you could get away from your fetch land Ravnica dual land base and just play with more Adhikar wastes and whatever. There's other lands you can,
Coast,
right, there's other lands you can go to if Choke's a big problem. Whereas Blood Moon, it's basically basics or bust. There's no way to reconfigure
You
your
could
deck.
just play red.
Right, you could just play red. Not a bad out to have for some of us, but I'm not even saying that I would necessarily want the card ban. I'm saying that right now is the top of my list.
Yeah. So Players getting ready for game 3 here. This is Ross Merriam and Gerard Fabiano. For you, though, looking at the pins we're wearing right now, this is for StarCityGames.com Game Night. SCG Game Night started at the end of last year and has really picked up in full swing. If you're signing up for Star City Games Game Night, we have a different promo given away each month as prizes for the Game Night tournament at your local store. That includes this month, March, will be the rat pin and rat tokens you see here on your screen.
Yeah, we leave a lot of discretion to the stores for this program. Just get signed up, get these kits sent to you, and get the players into your store every week on the same time for some fun and friendly magic. This is the March kit. Of course, too late to get signed up for March, but if you want to get signed up for April, head over to StarCityGames.com/game night or contact your Star City Games organized play representative.
So when you look at the token, the rat guy looks really cute, and then you go and zoom out on the pin and you realize it's not as cute because he's sitting inside a skull.
You're right. Actually, all the art leading up to this with the rat was pretty whimsical.
Yeah. It was
kind of
really,
doe-eyed.
he's really adorable, too,
Yeah.
the rat, but, you know, he's...
But now, we see the full scope. He's hanging out inside of a skull. Horrifying.
Ross has mulligan to 6 this game. He's on the draw, however. Gerard keeping 7. The last game shows off some of the power against, when you're playing against Twin, how it does seem like you need doing something proactive fairly early is certainly helpful. If you give Ross enough time, this idea that he'll go for a Blood Moon with double Dispel backup seems like something he can sculpt given enough part time in the game.
Yeah, the strategy that I like to employ against Twin is get your work done up front. Don't sit there with a lot of reaction in your hand. Spend your first turn or two getting some threats on the table, and it makes all of your counters and discard spells so much more effective. The deck can play very efficiently. This is Twin I'm talking about. Can play very efficiently in terms of a counter fight, as you saw there with Ross. So you need to get something in play preemptively before you initiate that kind of battle.
All right, Inquisition of Kozilek, the turn 1 play from Gerard, and we'll see what Ross's holding is. It's a pair of Sulphur Falls, a Remand, a Snapcaster Mage, Engineered Explosives, and Pestermite. So it's got a little bit of permission, a removal spell, half his combo, and then some value in Snapcaster Mage. Last game we saw Gerard just take Snapcaster Mages pretty much all the time.
I think we're going to see something similar here because of the Remand and the Engineered Explosives. Ross can play defense. Taking the Pestermite here is interesting. I think that represents a pretty strong holding on Gerard's side, if that's the card he's willing to take out of that hand. So I thought he was just going to take some raw power, meaning either the Remand or the Snapcaster Mage.
Well, second Inquisition may just take one of those. He does get to see that Ross drew a Vendilion Click for the turn, another pretty decent card on the raw power level of things.
Right, put a card that's not that hard for Gerard to answer. He's got main deck Golgari Charm alongside his Abrupt Decays.
And he's going to go ahead and take Vendilion Click. It feels like there may be a card that Gerard's trying to protect, or that he has some sort of proactive game plan he wants to build toward.
Well, based on what he saw so far, Ross is not going to have access to this Remand on turn 3, and Snapcaster Mage plus Remand is way down the line. So I think Gerard's trying to sculpt this game plan, assuming that he's got a couple clean turns to resolve something like Tarmogoyf for some other big threat.
Yeah, Serum Visions is the leadoff for the turn. He's going to go ahead and scry. He could even do something like a turn 3 Tassiger here, actually.
Yep. We've seen that from Gerard in several formats now. He's ramped to Tassiger faster than anyone I've seen thus far.
Because if you're fetching for turn 1 discard spells, you can get that guy out very quickly.
Yeah, turn 3 in the Standard Open, he won several times.
Serum Visions looks like it'll split one between top and bottom. Actually, both on top for Gerard. And it may just be more discard still. Yeah, this is going to be a copy of Thoughtseize. Ross's draw was a copy of Spell Snare, so he did have something he could actually play on the 1 mana he had. See if Gerard lets him keep it. This time it'll be Remand, so Ross just left with Spell Snare, Engineered Explosives, and Snapcaster Mage, and no additional lands. Pretty good window for Gerard to do some damage here.
Yeah, and the Snapcaster Mage is still far away from doing anything. He needs one more land to be able to get to Remand.
Yeah, he did draw his 3rd land there, but Gerard, now working with perfect information, knows there's not too much he has to play around just right now. And discard spell number 4 from Gerard. This is the second Thoughtseize. Ross deciding if he wants to just throw the Snapcaster into play before this one resolves. It seems like there's a decent chance that Garard will be taking Snapcaster.
That's true, but I think that both Spell Snare and Engineered Explosives have enough play against Garard that I don't think you're supposed to just cast the Snapcaster here.
Yeah, he decides the same thing. Ross throws his hand, and Garard does take Snapcaster, so just some reactive cards in Ross's hand right now. Garard playing a second copy of Dark Six Shores and just passing. So 4 discard spells for Garard. Huge start. Has really done a number on Ross's hand. Left Ross with all reactive cards. It's kind of the opposite of where Ross wants to be.
Still needs something big to follow up on. I mean, if this was a game 1 kind of draw, this would be excellent for Garard, but if he gives Ross a lot of draw steps, we know he has things like Keranos and Jace Architect of Thought. He has a lot more power in his deck than he had game 1, so this is a good opening for Garard, but he needs to capitalize on this.
Ross hurting a bit from being down that card. Needs a threat and some lands to cast the threat. But right now, Garard may just give him the time to do that. We'll see where he can go. Draw from the turn is a copy of Stomping Ground. So it's land number 4 for Ross. I'll just pass. Double fetch out of Garard. This is maybe a Thrag Tusk or something for 5 that he's setting up.
Well, I don't know if he has anything else for 5.
That would be a pretty good one to get down. It is not a card easily answered by either the Spell Snare or the Engineered Explosives that Ross has.
And he can be pretty comfortable that the coast is clear in terms of getting comboed out here because he knows the 2 cards in Ross's hand, so he can put the shields down for 1 turn. You can see Garard being very diligent here about fetching basics after game 2 where he got locked by Blood Moon. Now with a forest, a swamp, and an island in play, not much to worry about.
And that will be the Thrag Tusk. Garard back up to 19, undoing the damage of those Thought Seizes. So now he has his win condition on the table. It's on Ross to make a move. His draw a copy of Dispel. That is not going to be any help in this board.
Yeah, I mean, he just has a hand of tools that do nothing against Thrag Tusk. And no way to get the combo started.
Swing puts Ross down to 14, but Garard is not done there. Post-combat, he's going to go ahead and play a copy of Tasigur, strategically delving for it to just leave himself with discard, it looks like. Copy of, he leaves us Serum Visions and an Inquisition in his graveyard for Tasigur.
I think he's happy with either. At this point, you know, the Inquisition is fine, but he also knows that Ross has very few relevant cards left in his hand, so Serum Visions is also not a bad consolation.
Ross draws Lightning Bolt. He'll go ahead and Lightning Bolt away the Thrag Tusk. Garard will get a 3/3 here. Right now, Ross with no great way to win, and a lot of big threats on Garard's side. Ross trying to 2 for himself to get rid of Thrag Tusk. He's going to bolt it, and then he played the Engineered Explosives on 0 to take care of the 3/3 Beast token.
Yeah, this is okay for Ross, I suppose, but these are tough exchanges when your opponent has active Tasigur.
Yeah, Tasigur will be activated. It mills Vendilion Click and Tarmogoyf, so Ross can give him any one of Tarmogoyf, Vendilion Click, Serum Visions, or Inquisition of Kozilek.
I imagine it's the Tarmogoyf because it's something for Ross to do with his Spell Snare, but it doesn't matter too much.
Ladies and gentlemen,
and Ross will give him, looks like, Inquisition of Kozilek.
Stephen White, report to the stage, please. Stephen
And Garard will go ahead and cast the card he got back. Sees Dispel and Spell Snare. Gotta be great news for Garard. He'll take the Dispel.
You can see one of the last cards in Garard's hand is Cryptic Command.
And that should pretty much seal it. Garard does have the mana to cast it here, too. Tasigur will swing. That'll put Ross down to 10. And Engineered Explosives will blow up the Beast token. Back over to Ross. Tasigur doing work. It's a 3-turn clock right here, and Garard with that Cryptic, he has the ability to leave up Cryptic Command every turn and leave up, at the same time, Tasigur activation.
I've been talking a lot how Snapcaster plus Cryptic Command is a combo deck. Tasigur and Cryptic is a combo deck. You got 4 mana up, your opponent does something good, you Cryptic it. They do nothing. You go ahead and just use Tasigur. Perfect.
So Garard that time was given back Inquisition of Kozilek, which he used again to go ahead and take Ross's Spell Snare. Hits Ross down to 6, uses Tastiger again, mills 2 more. We see Abrupt Decay and Abrupt Decay added. Can't imagine. Well, Ross is going to go ahead actually and give him an Abrupt Decay.
I think that the last card is in Ross's hand is a land here, and if Garard dials up the Creeping Tar Pit, we'll see a concession.
Yeah, certainly Garard can go for it this turn, but with such a strong showing of cards in hand, may just go the safe route and do it over 2 turns. We see him first putting Ross down to 2. And going to follow with a copy of Spellskite that he drew here. And that will be it. So 2 games to 1. Garard Fabiano defeats Ross Merriam. He moves on to 9-1.
Pretty impressive